Welcome to Reach the World ASAP. My name is Pastor Scott Griswold, and I'm delighted to partner with ASAP Ministries to remind you and me about how much we need to share the love of Christ with people around us, even when it takes us out of our comfort zone. Today, Barb, you've been kind enough to come and to share with me a story of a recent trip, your Christmas vacation with your family, and it's fun. My wife told me there's some special things in it that we need to hear. So where did you go, and what were you doing?
Well, it was my husband's dream to go to Patagonia, to go backpacking.
Where is Patagonia?
The southern part of South America.
Okay.
In Chile and in Argentina.
So way at the other end of another continent. Yes. And is this normal for you to be traveling around the world?
No, I don't know Spanish either.
So you were stepping out of your comfort zone. And how about backpacking? Is that your favorite thing?
I enjoy it, and our family has done it a fair bit.
So it was a family thing, wanted to be together and go and do something special. How many days?
We were gone 24 days total.
All right, and a long, long hike, I'm assuming, during that time.
Well, several hikes.
So anything memorable about your trip?
It started out when I realized my backpack was lost in Buenos Aires.
Okay, so this is your luggage?
Right, because we were backpacking, we took backpacks, not suitcases. And so the thing is, my sleeping bag and sleeping pad were all attached. And so it's like everything that I had so carefully lined out and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed down, I thought that was so essential to survive.
If I know you were making a list and checking it twice and getting everything just right.
True. Anyway, and so now it's just gone. And we were hoping it would show up at after our third and final flight down there, but it didn't. So it was the beginning of a challenge. I cried at first, and realized that my attitude would make a big difference for everybody else, and so I had to start changing my attitude.
Wow. After you cried, then what?
The whole trip was one of learning to trust God more, and this was the beginning. And I think through that loss, it made me have to trust Him a lot more, and to realize that I could get by on a lot less. And He was stretching me.
A change of clothes in your carry-on?
Part of a change of clothes.
And what about backpack and bags?
Well, we had brought in an extra backpack just for miscellaneous things, but it didn't fit me well, and so it was not too comfortable. But the problem is, I just didn't have the things that were inside of mine.
Wow! But you headed off anyway. You went off on your hike.
We did.
And where did you go?
Well, we were in a town called El Chalten, up in the mountains, and our first hike was a 10-kilometer hike up a very windy and rainy. Beautiful place.
Beautiful in wind and rain. Cold?
If you didn't keep moving, it got cold. But when you got to the top, where the lake and the mountains were, the colors of the lake are just incredible. From the sediment from the glaciers come down, and it's just beautiful.
I would love it. Wow, sounds really nice. My wife said something very meaningful happened there. Can you tell us about that?
When we got to our campsite after this 10-kilometer hike in a very windy and rainy situation, it was in a shelter of some trees, which there weren't a lot of trees up there, so it was unusual. And it seemed very pristine, except that I noticed that somebody was smoking. And I'm not a smoker, and so it was uncomfortable for me. And it ended up being very close to where we were camping. So, but with the wind, it kind of took it away, and I didn't think too much about it. So we went to bed and endured a night of rain, and we stayed fairly dry. We didn't really feel the puddle of water under our tent that was collecting. But when I got up in the morning, our neighbor, it was a woman who was camping by herself. She was outside of her tent, hanging up her sleeping bag, which you might think was odd, but she was just shaking, literally shaking like this. Her head was shaking, her hands were shaking, and she did not speak English, and I didn't know Spanish, but I went over, I could tell there was a problem, and her sleeping bag was sopping wet, and she just wasn't prepared to go backpacking. Her tent just had a little dome rain fly. She didn't have a ground cloth. She didn't have a sleeping pad. And her coat was soaked. She had a fleece type jacket that was wet. And I was just concerned she would be maybe getting hypothermia because she had nothing in her tent to get warm, and it was cold and raining, yes. And so I just needed to do something for her. And so one thing I did have, I had a small blanket that I carry when I travel. And so I got that and I wrapped it around her shoulders. I took my scarf, wrapped it around her head, and brought my sleeping pad over because she was just sitting on a wet tent floor. So she'd have at least something dry to sit on, and I only had 2 extra pairs of socks, but I took one of them. And I rubbed her feet with my hands to try to get some circulation in them, put my socks on her, and I had a little pair of slippers that was in my carry-on too. And I put those on her, and then I crawled in her tent with her, and I thought this is gonna look weird to have my boots sitting outside someone else's tent when my family gets up in the morning. But she needed help. So she's just shaking like a leaf, and so I just, she was sitting upright, so I said, let's just lean back to back with her so that my body heat could hopefully get on her, but that didn't seem to be enough. So I just turned around after a while, and I just wrapped my arms around her, and for a while anyway, and just try to get more warmth to her. And she was very, very grateful, but still very cold. So as I'm sitting there doing this, I'm looking around and discover that she's the smoker, because she's got her little cigarette things there. And I just thought, Lord, this is really stretching me, because I didn't even want to camp by somebody who is different than me in this way. And now here I am embracing them. But anyway, the strong wind I told you about did dry out her sleeping bag in a little while, and so I was able to give that to her. She was able to get in it and warm up a little bit. And when we broke camp about 11 in the morning, she was up and seemed to be stable enough to leave. We had given her some hot drink and some oatmeal, which also I think helped her. But even though we couldn't talk, I mean, we couldn't understand each other, there was a connection, a bond, a heart bond, and it was just very special to me.
It's beautiful. Barb, it touches me. It to some might think an ordinary common story, but that's what life is made of. It is in the midst of our inconveniences and our struggles and frustrations that we see someone who's in greater need than we, and we reach out and touch them. We don't even have to speak their language. We don't even have to know how to say or do anything, but it's that love, it's that care that's so needed. And so as my wife was telling me little pieces of this, and so fun to hear it in person, it just struck me that this is what we all need as we are in a country where there are now many, many more people who are different from us, who are not the same. And as we meet them, we can be frustrated by them or just not think we can even do anything with them because we don't speak the same language. But if we'll just reach out and care, what a difference it can make.
Another lesson for me was that, I was feeling like I really didn't have very much to take care of myself on this trip. But even the little that I had, I was able to share.
Wow.
And I think that was a really important lesson for me to realize.
That's beautiful. It's very, very true. Thank you very much for coming out of your comfort zone just to do this too, and sharing how God led you past what was normal and comfortable to share his love in a great way. It's very special. Thanks a lot. I want to just encourage every single one who is listening to this to recognize it is in the very ordinary events of our life, our own frustrations, that if we, by the grace of God, will look out and see the people around us as he sees them, with love, with care, with compassion, and just reach out. Remember, you don't have to speak their language to show his love. And as we extend his hands together, we can reach the world ASAP.